So the topic for today is love is not what you think. And Mother Teresa said, there's more hunger for appreciation in this world than for bread. Most people think they know where they can get that love. And we go after it. We go out on love hunts, looking for love. I remember a story, a woman, she was a therapist, and she was asked to counsel with some people who had had a trauma. I think they had been on a boat that tried to get in the United States, and maybe they had come from a war-torn country, and they had post-traumatic stress disorder. And I mean, they had just been through a horrible situation. And she thought, I don't know how I can help them. This is not my expertise. But she thought, well, I'm going to work with them anyway. And she said, I'll just see what I can do. And so she started talking with them. They didn't want to talk about what just happened to them and how horrible it was. Guess what they wanted to talk about? Well, my boyfriend that came over in the boat, he's been acting kind of snotty to me lately. And I just don't understand what's going on. And I need help on this. They all wanted to talk about their relationships. Because when they were feeling they weren't getting the love that they wanted, that's like, I need to get that love back. It's gone somewhere. I need it back. Where is it? And so we're looking for love. And the word love has gotten, I think, a bad rap. Have you heard people, and I mean, I even got in the habit of thinking that it's like, oh, the word love is really a limited word. You know, those Greek people, now they knew how to show up that word love. They had agape. They had unconditional love. They had eros. They had, love between a man and a woman, sensual love. They had platonic love or philia, friendship love. I mean, they had it going. But I'm going to look at it a little bit differently. Suppose our word love is so inclusive that it holds many facets like a diamond. Because if a jeweler looks at a diamond, they're going to say it has occlusions, it has facets, it has this, it has that and the other. And all of those things make it beautiful. And so I'm supposing, let's just go from the idea that love is just so big that defining it limits it. But when we say love, then it's going to fit a lot of different situations. When I thought about the topic for this, love is not what you think, I mean, can you imagine why I said that? Love is not what you think? Because it's not here, is it? It's not in our heads. It's not what we think. Love is here. Love is here. We think that this is what runs the show. But yet at the Heart Math Institute and other scientists, they're coming up with the ideas that this is what runs the show. In our heart, we have these neurocardiocytes. It's a brain-like, it's a thinking intelligence. As a matter of fact, we have intelligence that is brain-like in every cell of our body. And at the Heart Math Institute, they say that actually 95% of the information that runs the body goes from the heart brain, the neurocardiocytes, to the head brain. And people say, oh, that's not possible because the head runs everything. You can't live without a brain. You got to have the brain. It does everything. It operates the heart. It operates this and that and the other. And do you know that there was a boy born named Nicholas Koch? And he was born without a brain. And he lived for 3 years. He just died November the 1st. 3 years. This little baby lived without a brain. He breathed. He had no oxygen tanks. He had no intravenous feedings. He had nothing. Nothing. The only thing he got, and I wasn't able to find out why, was pain pills. But he had no other external form of he was going to live. He lived for 3 years with no brain. But normally a child that's born without a brain dies within hours, but he lived for 3 years. It kind of blows your idea about what is what. And that's what I want to do always with my mind, and that is keep blowing my mind. Because the minute I know, I got it going here, I know exactly what's going on, I'm limited, I'm cut off. A Course in Miracles tells us that we can't teach love. You've heard that what we can do is remove the blocks to our awareness of love's presence. And those blocks are obstacles. And I think I've talked about these obstacles before, but I'd like to mention them again because I think it's a powerful thought about about obstacles. I'm talking about the obstacles to the awareness of love's ever presence here. Is there anyone that believes that love is always present? That it's always here, that it's unconditional, that it's always here. But what we are is that we are in love with the obstacles. See, we want to remove the obstacles to love's presence. We are in love with our obstacles. And we intellectually and emotionally guard our limitations. That's our stuff, and we're not giving it up. We fight to be right. And in that fight, we lose touch with love. I'd like to read from Eckhart Tolle's book, Stillness Speaks, about being right. I think this is so right, what he says. Being right places us in a position of imagined superiority and so strengthens our false sense of self, the ego. This also creates some kind of enemy. Yes, the ego needs enemies to define its boundary. And even the weather can serve that function. Through habitual mental judgment and emotional contraction, you have a personalized reactive relationship to people and events in your life. I want to read that again since I stumbled a little bit. Through habitual mental judgment and emotional contraction, you have a personalized reactive relationship to people and events in your life. These are all forms of self-created suffering, but are not recognized as such because to the ego, they are satisfying. We're kind of like smug. The ego enhances itself through reactivity and conflict. And what is another obstacle to love? And that is guilt. Guilt is the universal obstacle that we all have to love, and you can see that starting in the Old Testament, on about page 9 of the Old Testament, you'll read about guilt, and it goes throughout the Old Testament. So it's a very old concept, this thing of guilt. Guilt is the master manipulator. It's the thing that people can use on others to manipulate. And then we can use it on ourselves to limit ourselves. It becomes our obstacle to peace. And another obstacle to love in terms of being open with people and holding our defenses and guards, and that is that if we really open up to love someone and to be in love and be in the presence of love when we're other people, then if we don't open up, we feel it's a protective device. And that means because if they ever left us, then we wouldn't really, if we don't have that much invested, then when they go, because they're going to go, because they always go, because nothing lasts, then I'm going to be okay. Because I was always just here by myself anyway, locked up. I mean, it's a way of really controlling, holding out our love. And so what we do is we develop this tremendous amount of self-sufficiency. And unfortunately, there's a flip side to self-sufficiency, because you will find that the people that tend to be the most self-sufficient and controlling at some point in their lives often hit a place of helplessness, whether it's physical helplessness, emotional helplessness. The universe will get you. So you're going to get knocked down one way or the other. If you haven't opened your heart and relaxed those barriers, the universe will say, come on. And then the other way, if you have been helpless and hopeless and so forth, the universe will also put you in a place also where it's like you're going to have to stand up and do your stuff here. Because you're going to be placed in that position, because whatever it is, it's like the pony we ride. At some point in our lives, there's a stopping point that says you're not going to be able to ride this pony anymore. I mean, because this may not be for everybody, but it's for the people that say, I want to grow, I want to change, I want things to be different. And they will be. And of course, we want it to change in a way where it's like really easy and safe. It's like, not this. I don't want to give up my power over my stuff. But it changes in a way that we would never have chosen. One of my mantras, one of the things that I hold in my mind throughout the ups and downs of my emotional landscape is the thought that love is available right now. So that means if Jim and I are spatting with each other, that I think, that love is optimal right here. It's like my mind will fool me to believe that love is absent here, but it is present now. And can I peel back my need to be right? Can I peel back my sense of victimhood? Can I peel back all that's going on and just rest in that love? Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't, but it's the thing that I hold in my mind that allows me to go where I need to go. And love is so compassionate that if I can't go there immediately, but I have the intention of letting go of the conflict and the upset, that something comes in my mind, either something to say or something to do. There's the wisdom that comes through for me at that point. When people love, it gives them amazing qualities. For example, can you imagine someone said, I'm going to give you $1 million to cross between this 100-story building and that 100-story building on a narrow board? How many of you would do it? Now let's just suppose that your child was on the other building, and if you did not cross that board, you knew they were going to die. Maybe somebody was holding a gun, or there was a chainsaw coming toward them or something, but you knew they were going to die. You'd be over there. Yes. You would be over there. Your love would be more powerful than your fear. And it's always more powerful. We don't have to set up a scenario like that. We can set up the everyday, ordinary life and know that love is more powerful than any scenario. It trumps, it's the full flush or whatever it is in bridge of every hand that we play in life. So love is the medicine that cures everything, but when it cures everything, I don't mean that it makes everything right in the external world. What it does is love transforms our internal reality. I'm on a mailing list, and I received a newsletter, and it was about a woman that took a teleseminar from another spiritual teacher. And these are her words. She said, during the course, I was in a place in my life where I felt like I was living the dark night of the soul. I'm dealing with childhood trauma, loss of work, abuse, financial bankruptcy, and breakdown of family ties. But when I came on this course and heard Gangaji, something inside me profoundly shifted and opened up. I experienced deep peace. And this is the kicker for me. I love this sentence. I never dreamed it would be possible for someone like me to access a place inside of me that was flawless. That's so sweet. I mean, that's the space of love that dwells in all of us. But for an instant, I did just that. She was transformed from darkness into life. I can tell when that comes to me. Can you tell when that comes to you? I know I can tell when it leaves. I'm doing so great, I'm all expanded and I'm wonderful, and all of a sudden light switch, contracted, upset. But yet there are so many times when it comes by itself without me saying, please come. And I'm sitting and things, happiness, it's like it just, all of a sudden, everything that I was upset with leaves, and I can feel it in my body. I can feel the protectiveness against life that I've harbored leaves. My body says, it's safe. I have permission to live. I have permission to be here. It's safe to be alive. And the irritation I have towards other people or against other people is gone. And what rises with that love, what it always comes hand in hand with, is compassion. It's like you can't be love and not have compassion. It just doesn't work that way. One of the biggest obstacles, I think, to love is our bodies. And our bodies are held, and when we're held tightly and stressed, not only are we held, our breath, we don't breathe. And when they talk about the breath of life, it's when movement is love. Movement is God. Because when it's static, when there's still, when there's no dynamism, it's death. But when we move, It's love. And we can't even have the awareness of love unless our bodies let go of that armor. I remember a friend, and we were in a rebirthing session, which is a conscious breathing process. It's a body therapy. And she was lying there, and she got more peaceful and more joyful, and she laughed. She said, I just exploded into love. She said it was as if every cell in my body was alive with peace and joy and love, because every obstacle had been removed, and she experienced love at a deep level. We don't just experience love here. We don't just experience love as activity externally, and we don't just experience love right here. Love is really available to be experienced as pleasure, as bliss, throughout every cell of our body. I had a phone call this week from a woman I remember he said, my name is something Higginbotham. Well, now I can't remember her name, but whatever it was. She's just finished reading your book. She said, I live in Canada. And she said, one of the things that I've noticed is that you have a prayer for everything, but you don't have a prayer for selling houses, and I want to sell my house. And I said, okay. So we talked about that a little bit. And she said, well, I've got a house, and I live on a little island off Vancouver. I really want to sell my house. She said, but she said, I read your book, and I read where it says that your concept of God is different now than it was when you were young, because I tell this little story about how the breakdown of my belief in God as a man with a beard and so forth. And she said, what is your concept of God now? And I wasn't really prepared for the question. I mean, it's not a bad question or anything, but I mean, somebody calls you up and says, what is your, it's not a political poll. I could give you an answer on that. And so I stammered around a little bit, and I gave probably that God isn't everything. And it was like, I just felt like I was parroting something I'd heard, because I wasn't really attached to the meaning. But after I hung up and I was thinking all about this, what do I believe that God is? And I thought, what I believe God is something I would have said before. I would say that God is love. But now here's the trick to that. I don't think love is what I used to think it was either. It's, when I was 23, love was a whole different thing. Love was romance. Love was something that you got. It wasn't something you went out hunting for, but it's something so entirely different now than it was. We have 50 trillion cells in our body. 50 trillion cells. And when they move, they are all in sync. They are in harmony. They are well informed. Every move. It doesn't make a false move. Everything is informed. Whether it's the white blood cells that are rushed to infection, or whether we have a fever, whatever it is, even when we have cancer, every action, every cell moves in harmony with some kind of intelligence. And to me, that is love. That is love. That it's everything is done at the behest of love. It's some kind of glue that holds everything together. But as the word God, I cannot really define what God is, and I cannot really define what love is. We can just talk around it. I got this off the internet, and I didn't get the guy's name. We are this love. There's an ancient call that we all hear. And this is how somebody described this call on the internet. He says, there is a fundamental reason why we look at the sky with wonder and longing. For the same reason that we stand hour after hour gazing at the distant swell of an open ocean. There is something like an ancient wisdom encoded and tucked away in our cells that knows its point of origin as surely as a salmon knows its creek. Intellectually, we may not want to return there, but the genes know, and they long for their origins, their home in the salty depths. But if the seas are our immediate source, the primary source is certainly in the heavens. The spectacular truth is, and this is something that your DNA has known all along, the very atoms of your body, the iron, calcium, phosphorus, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and on, were initially forged in long-dead stars. That is why, when you stand outside under a moonless country sky, you feel some ineffable tugging at your innards. We are star stuff. Keep looking up. Do you remember when you were a kid, did you go out and look at the stars? Were you fascinated by them? Where it's like, oh my gosh, there's something big happening here when I'm looking at this stuff. I want to keep looking at this stuff. And I have to add to this because I believe that this does not stop, that this longing, even if we were to experience ourselves directly as one with all matter, that beyond that is the primary source, and that source is consciousness. That's what I used to call God. But now I see it as love. It's what is beyond. I got called out one time. Somebody wrote me up because I don't really talk in the traditional way because I didn't, not really wrote me up, but someone says, you know, when people walk away from their lecture, they often don't go home and they don't have anything to do. You know, usually don't you have like an opening and a conclusion and point 1, 2, 3 in the talk? And I thought about it, and basically it's like, no, really, they don't. What my talks really are about are hopping around in the mind enough so that I can take the walls and take a little hammer and nail, say, a little chisel and start cracking here and say, can we knock this wall down over here? Can we knock it down a little bit? Oops, this one is now looks like it's getting so hard. Let's knock this one down a little bit. Let's knock this one down a little bit more. So I'd like to end with a thought in terms of love that I hope will knock it down even more, and maybe not. Linda and I had a talk before, and she was talking about her concept of heaven on earth. But what I'm thinking is that in terms of evolution, we're not through. 1,000 years ago, we looked a lot differently than we do now. But we're not through by a long shot. And I believe that this consciousness, this love, what it's doing is it's incarnating. But it's not through. We're not finished products. And as we move along the continuum of evolution, what is happening is that we are turning into this moving, dynamic, fluid, liquid love. That is what we're becoming. Some people talk about rainbow warriors or rainbow people. It's not an emotional or taking a stand kind of a rainbow person. We are becoming rainbow people. I think our bodies will be more translucent, that we'll have this light flowing, that we may be communicating in different ways than talking. But we are moving in that direction. Our bodies will become the complete vehicle for divine intelligence because it wants to maximize creation. And we're the vehicle that it's chosen to do that through. And it's done through this thing that we call this essence, which is love. So the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And it's not a hand out, it's a hand in. And it's now. We can fight it. We can fight it. It's just like a river. My belief is that we're all going there. It's like a river. If we were in a river that was 100 miles long and we were all in it, and we could try to swim upstream, but we would get tired. Eventually we would get tired and it would take us along with it. If we're visionaries, what we might see is where we're going down here, and we might say, not only am I going with the flow, I'm going to do whatever it takes to undo my limits so that I can get there now. Because it's available for us to get there now, but I don't think that we can goof up. I think that we are moving in that direction, and that's where we will be someday. So we are not finished. Our bodies are becoming one with this love, and that is the truth.